We are now, President McCaig.
All right. So we've established that all trustees are present and accounted for. We have established that this meeting has been publicly noticed. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening and thank you for your time, talent, and patience in advance, and also wish Trustee Kudo a happy birthday. Thanks for coming on your birthday. All right, we have a few order of business this evening for A, Southeast Area Combined Sewer Improvements Phase 1 Update and Phase 2 Project Overview. This is project meeting number 15, and our engineer Phil is with us this evening with a PowerPoint. Welcome, Phil.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Give me a second here. I'll get my screen set up. Okay, is my screen visible to everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, good evening. I will be giving a presentation on the Southeast Area Combined Sewer Improvements project update. So presentation agenda, first I'll go through just introduction and brief background on the project. Phase 1 is 2023, so that's the phase that's ongoing this year. So provide a construction update. That is the yellow area, the yellow highlighted streets that's seen on the figure on the right. So it includes North Maryland Avenue, Downer, and Shepherd. And it's primarily the driver is the 48-inch relief sewer, and then I'll get into some of the other components further into the presentation. So phase 2, that's next year's project. I'll go through the design scope. That's the orange highlighted, so that's North Downer Avenue and East Newton Avenue. And then phase 2B is a lining project, so that I will get into more detail. That's along North Prospect and East Shorewood Boulevard, but that's lining of sanitary sewer, not replacement. And then phase 3B is Lake Drive, which is 2025. And I just have a portion of the Lake Drive reconstruction shown here. Introduction and project background. So overall project goal, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory, is to increase the level of protection against basement backups in the Southeast area. The design storm is the NOAA Atlas 14 10-year, 1-hour recurrence interval event. So essentially 1.91 inches in 1 hour is what the model was designed for. Anything beyond this intensity, there's a chance that basement backups could occur. So the MMSD relief sewer that they installed was designed for this storm, and then everything that is going in as part of our projects is designed for the 1.91 inch event. Phase 1 construction update. So 4 bids were received last December. Advanced construction was the low bid. Construction began in mid-March. The 48-inch relief sewer was installed on Maryland and Stratford by mid-June 2023. So that's the deepest sewer or the deepest utility. So that's installed first. Once that was installed, then there were some combined sewer upgrades in Maryland, some on Stratford, and then also Shepherd. That's the next deepest utility. So those were installed after the relief sewer. And then the last major utility was the water main installation. That was completed in early September. Along with that were the public water services. Those were completed in mid-September. So that's from the water main to the curb box that's generally located in the terrace area. The Shepherd roadway construction, that was completed actually last Thursday. They put the surface layer of asphalt down. And then private water services I have ongoing. They're planning to finish early this week. They had just 5 homes left as of last Thursday. So 56 Private water services have been, lead services have been replaced with copper services. The remaining work is the roadway work along Maryland Avenue and Stratford, and then also the bioretention basin at Menlo. Utility relocations, those were a headache on this project, but they're complete at this point, except for finishing pulling some wires, but they're out of the way of our contractor. It did create a 2-week delay, so we're a little bit behind on the work, the roadway removals and road reconstruction on the Maryland and Stratford part of the project. Contractor still intends to hit the substantial completion date of December 1st of this year. And then final completion is June 30th of next year. That'll be for the placing sod and restoration, final restoration work in the terrace and tree planting. Payments to date, so we're at about 65% complete. So 5 million of approximately $8 million project. 2 change orders to date for about $50,000 or 0.6% of the total contract cost. One of these was related to the way the relief structure connection was left at the MMSD relief structure. It wasn't left how they told us it was going to be left, and that led to a change order. Some of the other ones are just for, there's been some additional tree removals, difference in quantities here and there. Any additional costs due to the utility relocation delays would be invoiced to the responsible parties. So if there are, paving contractor has indicated that if they have to implement cold weather paving, that it's an additional $6 per ton of asphalt cost. So the intent would be to pass that cost along to the utilities, since they were given ample notice, reminders, whatnot, that the utilities had to be removed. And until the village started withholding their permits for other projects, that got them to move quickly and finally relocate their utilities. So current contract cost is about 7.9 million. Quantities are currently tracking close to bid quantities, so you don't anticipate any major additions or deductions to the final contract cost. So tree removals. So this, we had 22 originally included in the as bid drawings. So that's what was bid. That included 10 ash trees. To date, 40 trees have been removed in total, which is 17, with 17 of those being ash trees. 12 additional trees were removed due to utility, sewer, water, and sewer lateral conflicts. So when we put the design together, we had discussions about trying to save as many trees as possible. So the ones that were borderline, where there was a water service box close to a tree, we didn't call for it to be removed in hopes that it could be salvaged. But with these 12, once we got into construction, it just, too many roots were lost and excavation was too close to the tree to keep these trees. So that's why those 12 were added. 3 additional ones were identified by the forestry staff in February due to existing condition, to be removed. One of them was an ash tree. That's part of this 17 total. These 3 and 1 are included in that 17. And then 3 were added just due to construction equipment clearances. They were all ash trees. A contractor just requested early on if these trees could be removed to provide more access for their equipment, for their backhoe to swing and that sort of thing. So project takeaways. So Leanne, do you want to jump in on this one?
Sure. So we've obviously had ongoing discussions both with various divisions of the public works staff, the communications personnel at the village hall, and then all of the participants from Strand. And you know, there's a couple of takeaways. Probably neither of these should be a surprise, but you know, there's definitely a weariness when it comes to construction from the residents in that area. Their patience is wearing pretty thin. For some of them, they've been basically living adjacent to an active construction zone for 2 years or going on 2 years. A third year in the vicinity, though not adjacent to their property. It's a lot to ask. It's a necessary infrastructure project. There really was no other way that it could be done on the timetable that was desired by the board that set this schedule a number of years ago. So we're really going to work as a team, staff-wise, and then with the consultant to make sure that we're really improving our message so that we can better communicate to residents, what the reality of what they should expect. It may not be pleasant, but we want to eliminate the surprises or the phone calls where, well, I didn't think it was going to be like this. Just want to make sure that we're very clear in our messaging about exactly what's going to occur, when it's going to occur, and what the impacts are going to be. And then the second takeaway is, there were significantly more tree conflicts than I think our staff expected or was anticipating. And, if I could go back to the DPW 50 years ago and say, hey, people, let's leave a little more clearance where we plant trees adjacent to private water service lines and sewer laterals. I'd love to be able to do that. Unfortunately, that's really not an option. So, based on the number of conflicts we've seen on this project, extrapolating that over the next 20 years of lead service line replacements, tree replacements on an annual basis are going to be significantly higher than what we have seen, let's say, over the past 20 years. I think when you combine that with emerald ash borer infestations, trees are going to be a much bigger conversation on every project that we do. So just wanted to make sure that we were communicating that these are some things that we learned and we're definitely going to refocus on for next year.
Okay, thanks, Leanne. Yeah, I think one of the messaging points that we need to do a better job of kind of hammering home is once the relief sewer goes by, there's still other utilities to go in, like water main or maybe some segments of combined sewer. And I think that's one of the things that wasn't clear to the residents. And then in the end, they have the road reconstruction. So they've got equipment coming past their property maybe four or five times when they were maybe had in their head that it'd be 1 or 2 times. So that's certainly a takeaway from this project. The 2024 phase 2 design scope. So this project is just was advertised last Friday, so it's out for bids right now. The scope is road reconstruction along Downer Avenue from Edgewood to Capitol, and then also work on Newton Avenue. And then on Downer, we have the 48-inch relief sewer. So that will be installed from Stratford Court to Shorewood Boulevard. On Newton and on Downer, there's combined sewer pipes. So there's some smaller combined sewers on Downer that will be replaced. And then the reason for the work on Newton is the combined sewer. On Downer, the 16-inch transmission water main, which is critical infrastructure to the village. This is the main feed. So this is the trickiest part of this project. The last project, phase 1, the relief sewer was definitely the most difficult construction aspect. On this project, it's going to be the water main. It's fairly shallow, and obviously it serves a huge amount of people, the water for the village. So that is planned to be replaced the full length of Downer. Contingency plans will be in place for breaks and that sort of thing. Hopefully there are none, but we're planning for every situation. Private water service installation. So there's 25 of them on Downer and Newton. On Downer, as I mentioned, full road reconstruction from Edgewood to Capitol. And then Newton will be road reconstruction within the project limits. So to the intersection with Hackett, just where the orange line is shown approximately. As mentioned, advertised for bids last Friday, opening bids on October 27th, planning for contract award at the November 6th village board meeting. And then it'd be a similar construction timeline to phase 1, with construction starting sometime in March, substantial completion in December, and then final completion the following year. Opinion of probable cost is 8.8 million. This includes 1.3 million for the 16-inch water main, and also includes full reconstruction of Downer from East Edgewood to East Capitol Drive. So these two items weren't in kind of the initial project. And these photos just kind of show the condition of some of the pavement on Downer. Phase 2B and phase 3 scope. So phase 2B, that's involves sanitary sewer lining of the brick interceptor. So the existing, it's a 54-inch interceptor along Shorewood, and then it increases to 60-inch along Prospect, and then 66, and then it ties into the 78-inch, which was installed in the late 90s. So the phase 2B is, the plan is to line this sewer so that to increase its design life by another 50 years. So essentially all this infrastructure here is on the same rehab schedule. So design would be next year, and then construction 2025 after phase 2 is operational. And this project won't involve full road reconstruction or digging. There will be digging by manholes to install the liner, but it's not going to be nearly as invasive as the phase 1 or phase 2 or the Lake Drive reconstruction. Opinion of probable cost is 1 million. And then phase 3 is Lake Drive reconstruction. There is some combined sewer upsizing from East Edgewood Avenue to East Newton, and then the full road reconstruction. So summary, so the phase 1 construction is nearing project completion. It's on budget, and I just want to also say it was a difficult construction project, just from technically to build the project, being close to the condominiums, having the sewer depths that it had, and for that to all have gone smoothly with no major issues with any of the surrounding properties. I think that was definitely turned out very well. I thought from that standpoint, that the relief sewer installation went extremely well. Phase 2 is currently out for bids. Construction planned for 2024. Phase 2B and 3 for 2025. And here's a photo of Shepherd with the final layer of asphalt. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Great. Well, first, I'm just going to say that really is really impressive. It's outstanding, and it is history making. We're not going to have another benchmark like this for quite a while. So I don't know if you guys brag when you go to engineering conferences, but you can definitely, throw this one around, Phil.
Thanks.
Questions? Trustee Stokbrand.
Well, first I want to thank staff, Director Buchlik, and our strand engineer, Phil Budzik. I'd like to thank you for the improvements you made on the slideshow. I appreciate the extra notations. It made it more understandable for me. I have a question about this water main. Will you leave the old one in there and build a new one and then just switch the water supply one day from the old to the new, or does the old one have to come out?
In general, yes, that's the plan, is to keep the old one in service as long as possible and then slowly switch over to the new. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's the general gist of it, is that the new one would be installed, it would be tested, it'd be basically charged up and ready to go, and you'd start tapping on the new properties or the new lines into it. And then after those are all on it, you would abandon the old one.
So that, it sounds like it could take months or weeks for sure.
To install the water main, yeah, it'll take.
But to switch over from, okay, we've got the new one in. Like
Yeah,
and is one like higher and lower than the other? Does one go?
they're different horizontal locations, and the new one will be deeper because that's one of the issues with the existing one is it's shallow. So the new one will be a little bit deeper and it'll be offset from the existing one. So it'll, I mean, the residents won't really notice if they're on the new main or the old main. You know, that'll just one day we'll knock on the door or someone will knock on the door and say, you know, your water is going to be off for a little bit while we tap into the new main. So there won't be like a huge shutdown or anything where they're offline for days.
And
The
then
biggest risk,
go ahead.
I say the biggest risk is the old main breaking during the project. And that's because that you can't anticipate, and with the condition of it, you just don't know, and you have a lot of heavy construction equipment driving around. So that's the biggest fear and the thing that can't be controlled. The rest of it can generally be controlled.
And your utility issues, I'm assuming, are with We Energies.
AT&T too.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Just
Yep.
quickly, just I just want to confirm. It was just briefly described as one day folks will be notified that their water will be turned off. I know you're just sort of saying that in jest, but there's a better plan than that, right? That will
Yeah, there'll be I think it's a minimum of 48 hours notice, and there'll be a paper notice that'll go out into their front door, and then the day of, the contractor usually comes on the door, knocks on the door, and somebody's home, you know, lets them know what's happening.
I assumed as much. Just wanted to.
Yeah, I know. That's good clarification.
Trustee Arndorfer?
Thanks. I guess I had two questions more village related than anything else. First one was I just wanted to see if you had any more of a sense of what this communication plan would look like in terms of setting expectations for impacted neighbors. Second, I wanted to see what, if any thought was being given to clearly communicated detours, just given the volume of traffic on Downer. Just saying that because just as, someone who would travel fairly frequently south on Downer, trying to get out of town was into Milwaukee was pretty chaotic once, the south end of Downer was shut down, with a lot of people, not familiar with the area, not really knowing where to go as you were being told in a couple directions you needed to. The street was blocked. So I just wanted to get a sense of, what we can do to, clearly communicate to residents or people passing through as to, what the best route to take is once we have this thing going.
Yeah, good question. So there is a detour plan included in the spec or in the drawings. So it'll be Edgewood to Maryland to Capitol, essentially, is the detour. So this time the road will be closed. It won't be like partially open like it was for phase one. It'll just be road closed to traffic. So that's the plan.
Be clear signage and everything.
Yeah, it'll be like a detour that you've probably seen, in various places, road closed 500 feet ahead or whatever, detour ahead. So there'll be signage indicating where the detour is. And then your first question.
Actually, I'll take that one, Phil.
Okay.
And just also to just clarify, the Downer buses will be detoured during this project. So the signage and the communication will be very different than the intermittent closures in the first phase, simply because it will be a full traffic detour. Residents obviously will be able to access their homes, through traffic. So in terms of the communication plan, I think, at this point, my intent is to essentially double down, we'll say, on the existing methods that we've used, that include direct mail communication, trying really to push through social media, but we typically hear that, people don't follow the village channels, they don't hear that, they don't see that. Also, obviously, have a web presence. If we need to, we'll look at doing some direct door-to-door communications, at least initially. What I really like to do is push people to the Notify Me so that we have an email address and can communicate that way, to just notify them and keep them up to date on progress and any sort of unanticipated events that need to be communicated or changes that might need to be communicated. We on every project, we do door-to-door communications, as Phil mentioned, whenever we have a water shut off or, if we're changing over a sewer lateral and we need to let people know that their service will be, temporarily interrupted. So we've used all of those methods in the past. I intend to continue to do so. Would gratefully accept any additional suggestion. That's typically something I do when someone calls to tell me or to share their level of unhappiness about the village's communication. I usually try to ask them what would be the better way to communicate with them. I don't often get a, we'll say, helpful response. So I think that the channels we use really are the best that we can do with the resources we have and the means at our disposal. So again, it's just going to be doubling down on those.
Thank you.
Might I suggest, since we are starting so far in advance with this discussion, that perhaps it could go to community and business relations for some brainstorming or, looking over what the current, the typical plan looks like, and that committee could identify some additional opportunities and do that far enough in advance as kind of like a white paper or something, so that if we do need to put additional resources in place, that we have the opportunity to do that.
I would be happy to speak with them.
Okay. 3 very talented individuals there with communication, so in good hands. Great. I'm hoping that if there are no other specific questions that absolutely need to be addressed this evening, we could wrap up. Although I do see Trustee Stokebrand. Did you have another question?
Sorry, just related to what we've seen south in the city, where they appear to have done lead laterals on Lake Drive, and then next year they're going to do Lake Drive. I would just hope that we're not following that model in the village in 2025, because it appears that they've torn up Lake Drive once and then they're going to tear it up again to resurface it. Are we doing lead laterals on Lake Drive at the same time that we're redoing, like we did with Stratford, and we're going to do Downer?
Yep. Partially. So we will be replacing the public portion of the service, which is the portion that lies under the roadway from the curb box back to the water main. That portion will be replaced with the 2025 project. The actual replacement of the privately owned sides of the service will follow in 2026. The reason for that is that if we were to incorporate that into the state project, the state would require us to purchase construction easements from every one of those properties in order to complete that work. In addition to being a significant expense, at this point in time, we do not have time to purchase easements from every one of the properties. So when we have done our private service work, we use a right of entry agreement not an actual easement. And that's something that I worked on with Nathan, and we worked through that coming into last year's project. So we will be doing private side in 2026. There will be no excavation in the roadway. We won't be digging anything up. It'll simply be a hydro excavated hole at the curb stop, and then we'll bore that line back toward the house.
I see. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that update. There is no action required at this time. Our next item, special order of business item B, is a proclamation for Ms. Heidi Pillar, who is a beloved children's librarian and is retiring. So on this occasion, I would like to say that whereas the Village of Shorewood values community diversity, excellence, integrity, and innovation, and whereas on August 30th, 1982, the Shorewood Public Library hired Heidi Pillar as the Youth Services Librarian, and whereas Heidi Pillar has since dedicated her professional career to the children and families of Shorewood community, has cultivated a community of connection, lifelong learning, and a love of reading, and whereas Heidi Pillar has become one of the Shorewood Public Library's most beloved leaders by building partnerships to integrate the library into the community, has created cooperative relationships with Shorewood residents, government organizations, community groups, local businesses, and nonprofit organizations. And whereas Heidi Pillar's expertise in children's literature and children's programming has been an inspiration to the library profession, and whereas Heidi Pillar's profound personal commitment and professional impact exemplifies the best of the Shorewood Public Library and is a shining example of excellence. And whereas after Heidi Pillar's distinguished 41-year career serving the community as the Shorewood Public Library Youth Services Librarian, the Village of Shorewood takes pride and pleasure in congratulating Heidi Pillar upon her richly deserved retirement. Now therefore be it resolved that I, President Ann McCaig, on behalf of the residents of Village of Shorewood, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, do hereby express our sincere appreciation and gratitude for Heidi Pillar's dedication and commitment to the Shorewood Public Library. We wish her continued health, happiness, and success in the years to come, and gratefully recognize her 41 years of service to the residents of the Village of Shorewood. Signed and sealed this second day of October 2023. I'd like a round of applause. We can. And I will never forget the day that my toddler, when we lived in River West on Humboldt Boulevard, my toddler Maeve, walking around the block, saw Miss Heidi Pillar in the wild walking her dog, and she froze and said, "Miss Heidi." So it's pretty special. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Moving on to item 5, consent agenda. Is there a motion to, Attorney Deneen? You're muted, sir. I still can't hear you. I think you're muted, sir. Is there a point of procedure that we need to be aware of? I'm sorry, sir, we can't hear you.
Is there a way one of the hosts can unmute?
I don't think there's any issue. I was having some Teams connectivity issues and had Bill hop on and made sure we had full coverage I'm actively monitoring everything that's going on, and so I don't see any issue right now, but
Okay,
I think we can just keep going. So
okay. He might have had a tribute to Miss Heidi, but we will move on. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by trustee Moore Baldoff, seconded by trustee Ursink. Any discussion? Trustee Stokbrand?
Yeah, I'd like to please pull item D as in David and F as in Frank, please.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda with the exception of those two items that have been removed, say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved with the exception of those items. Moving on to item 6, items removed. Item 5D, consider RFP for general engineering services 2024 to 2026. Trustee Stokbrand?
Thank you. I was just wondering, I had a brief email back and forth with Leanne a little bit about the presentations for the village board, and I would look to amend this to add under general engineering services with her feedback, something to the effect of item E after task 1. I'd like to add, provide professional, accurate, concise presentations to the village board as requested by staff. I didn't see anything in here that talked about the presentations to the village board, and it's an important way to communicate to us and to the residents. And so it's important enough that to me, it should be included in the scope of the project.
Okay, any additional discussion on that? All right, if none, trustee Ursink?
I just would like to hear the conversation from Leanne and her reaction to that.
Director Bushlick?
Sure, I have no concerns with adding that task. I think that generally is an expected service, but if the board desires to place additional emphasis on that, I have no concerns with that.
Thank you.
Would you like a motion, President McKay?
Yes, please.
I would, oops, I'm sorry. I'm scrolling here. I move to approve issuance of the RFP for general engineering services with the addition of under task 1, adding item E, provide professional, accurate, concise presentations to the village board as requested by village staff.
Second.
All right, motion by trustee Stokbrand, seconded by trustee Lynn. Any further discussion?
I did just want to say that I believe in the top part of this, it talks about implementation of streetlight replacement from 2024 to 2009, which we should probably change to 2029.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries 7-0. Items 5F, consider RFP for Vision 2035.
I would just defer this until the next meeting based upon our earlier discussion
I would
during the
support
budget and finance committee meeting.
Mhm.
So I just moved to defer 1 week.
Quick question. We talked about this in the strategic initiatives. Can you just let me know what was the discussion that we're deferring it by? I have no problem with this. I'm just not.
And I'll defer to President McKay.
I had in going through the budget items that we covered this evening in the capital budget, given that I made the suggestion of deferring the Vision 2035 plan process for 1 year to allow time for the EDI strategic plan, the updated parks plan, and which includes the bike ped and Atwater park pathways consideration, and the complete streets to all be completed so that all of our plans can be layered into that Vision 2035. And then in addition, just a consideration around the high level of staff commitment around coordinating the large projects that we are committed to for the next 3 years, so that like a year down the road, not only would we have those plans updated, we also are a little bit towards the light at the end of the tunnel with, major project coordination, so that department heads would perhaps be a little bit more available for participation and creativity. So those were just my thoughts. It was not a reflection on the value of it at all.
No, that makes actually great sense. I think that'd be actually probably beneficial to the project as well. So would we plan on doing the RF, like next week, we would just continue with the RFP, but just change the date at when we're going to actually make the plan, or should we defer the whole RFP for a year?
I was gonna defer to village manager, because I don't know what the purpose of RFPing if you're RFPing so far in advance that if consultants have trouble with that. So Manager Ewald, do you mind commenting on procedurally what you would recommend if we are to defer this?
Sure. We could bring the item back on October 16th at the conclusion of the budget discussions, and the board could provide some direction. I would modify the timeline. If the decision was made from the budget perspective to defer Vision 2035 until consideration in the 2025 budget, then I would remove the RFP for right now, and we would schedule it again for next fall.
So it sounds like maybe the motion should be to defer this item until October 16th, upon which we can consider the
Which way
status.
we want to go.
Mhm.
I can make that motion. I didn't make a
let's do
motion
it.
yet, did I?
I don't believe. Thank you, Trustee Lynn, for asking for that
No,
clarification.
thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
So then I would make a motion to defer item F as in Frank until the October 6th. Let me make sure I've got my date right. October 16 budget wrap-up meeting.
Second.
Oh, no. Well, good. It's good to have the chair of
Ready to vote.
strategic initiatives. A motion by Trustee Stokbrand, seconded by Trustee Lynn. Any further discussion?
Wait, one more very quick
Sure.
question. Should strategic initiatives meet for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the October 16th meeting to decide to give a recommendation on which direction we should go?
I believe that the Budget and Finance Committee is going to provide direction within the scope of the proposed budget as to whether or not it be funded or not.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Just somebody's talking about it before it gets back. Okay.
And then
Welcome your input.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, that's all. Sorry.
No, great question. All right, all those in favor of deferring as presented or as requested, say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Moving on, that concludes our consent agenda. Public hearings, we have none this evening. Citizens to be heard. This item is for matters not on the agenda. Is there anyone here this evening who would like to be heard? Please raise your hand or come off mute. All right, seeing none, we will move on to item 9, new business. We have one item this evening, 9A, consider ordinance 2023-3058 sewer system user charge system. So this item comes to us from Manager Ewald. There is a very detailed memo in our materials, which I assume everyone has reviewed. Are there any technical questions, points of clarification that are needed at this time regarding this item? Or Manager Ewald, is there anything that you would like to say or emphasize?
Just that this proposed increase comes to you as recommended within the long-range financial plan. Every other year, it was anticipated to have sewer increases in the utility to accommodate for the CC project that is currently under construction and will be ongoing over the next 3 years.
If there are no further questions, I would take a motion.
Yep, I can, I move to approve ordinance 2023-3058 to amend the village's sanitary sewer user charge system fees as proposed.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Motion by trustee Ursink, seconded by trustee Moore Baldoff. Any discussion? Trustee Lynn, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Thank you. How is this being communicated to residents once this change goes into effect? Is this like a mailer, or will it be on their bill, just a notice, a heads up that this is going this direction?
We put it on the bill prior to the increase being conducted, and then we'll notice it on the bill where it's implemented. And then we also provide an update on it within the scope of the tax bill mailer, because the change goes effective January 1st, 2024.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great question. All right. So this is an ordinance change, so it's a roll call vote, correct?
Trustee Stokbrand,
Aye.
trustee Moore Baldoff,
Yes.
trustee Lynn,
Aye.
trustee Ursink,
Aye.
President McCaig,
Aye.
trustee Arndorfer,
Aye.
trustee Kudo.
Aye.
Motion carried 7-0.
Great, thank you. That concludes new business. This evening we have reports of village officials. I have one proclamation to read on White Cane Day, which is whereas on October 6, 1964, the United States Congress designated October 15th of each year as White Cane Safety Day. And whereas blindness and severe visual impairment affect approximately 109,000 Wisconsin residents, and whereas the majority of these persons use travel aids such as white cane or a service animal to get around public streets and sidewalks and places of public accommodation, and whereas these travel aids are universally recognized as symbols representing vision loss, and whereas Wisconsin's white cane law requires that motorists come to a full stop before approaching closer than 10 feet to a pedestrian who is using a white cane or service animal, and whereas the greater awareness of the white cane law leads to safer, more attentive driving in general, enhancing the safety of all pedestrians, including children, elders, and people with disabilities. And whereas communities have the opportunity to implement many proven features to enhance the safety of all pedestrians, including sidewalks, accessible pedestrian signals, and curb ramps. Now therefore be it resolved that I, President Ann McCaig, on behalf of the residents of Village of Shorewood, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, do hereby proclaim Sunday, October 15th, 2023 as White Cane Safety Day in the Village of Shorewood, and also acknowledge the importance of pedestrian safety year-round. Signed and sealed the second day of October 2023 at the Village Hall of Shorewood. Thank you. And I appreciate the person who sent in that request. Let's see, other reports. There was, about a year ago, there were some videographers that came to a village board meeting working on a video project for the Milwaukee County, and that video project has been released. It's 19 short videos. It's in support of the racial equity vision of Milwaukee County. And so we'll circulate that. I'm in one, and Deborah Blanks is featured in another one, and she talks about her work in the Village of Shorewood and in partnership with the county. So it's a really exciting project and nice to be a part of it. And happy to represent Shorewood. I think those are all my reports. Other reports of village officials. All right, hearing none. Village manager.
Under my report, you'll see information provided by the Shorewood Police Department relative to the grants that will be working forward on from October 1st of 2023 through September of 2024. So as we discussed before, when they participate in these grants, they come before the board as a matter of information, and is also for our finance director for purposes of tracking. And so we just wanted to provide the same grants that we have reviewed in the past and discussed actually at public safety and the village board level. But it's coming to you at this time for your information to advise you that we will be participating in them throughout this next year.
Thank you. If anyone has any questions about that report, please email Manager Ewald for more information. All right, moving on to future items of consideration. Are there any? All right, I would like to start a task force on repurposing ash trees once they are removed. So like, could we build DPW out of ash trees and save some money? Anybody interested? Make a motion? Ash tree task force? No, I didn't think so. All right. Motion to adjourn.
I think Arthur, do you have something?
Yeah, no, I do have something. Thanks, Eric.
Oh, I didn't see your hand.
I really don't know if it's outside of the scope of our work, but I'd be really interested in getting an update of what's happening at the library with the library board and the director of the library. I think it's really important, even though they are a bit separate from us. I'd love to know kind of what's happening over there and how we can best support it. Is there a way we can just kind of get an update, or somebody, the board president, can we invite her to come here and hear, you know, basically her thoughts on what's kind of happening over there?
Well,
I would be, I was just gonna offer that I'd be happy to write or provide the board and follow up with you with a written update of what I'm aware of towards the end of the week.
That'd be fantastic. And that probably would not be appropriate to invite the village board or the library board to attend a meeting to kind of, you know, give us an update on what's happening at the library.
Typically, the time when we connect with the library board president and the library is within the context of the budget presentation, or if there is a special initiative going on. Otherwise, we are completely separate, and I would say that if any members of this board want to connect with the members of the library board, you are, as residents and, you know, users of library, you are welcome to do that. But I don't think that in asking for a report of operations or personnel or anything else would be within would be something that I would put on a future agenda.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other future items, or did I overlook any reports? Okay, thank you. All right, motion to adjourn.
Kathy,
Oh.
I'm sorry. Oh, Trustee Stokebrand, I didn't see your hand. Sorry.
Yeah, I just, finishing, another thought regarding trustee Ursink. I guess the larger concern here is not just the village board, but the community. And, it's frustrating to think that, I mean, I just don't know what channels of communication are typical for that group. And that seems to be a problem. And as to your point, President McCaig, we operate separately. And so it seems to be out of our control. And if you have, as I do, concerns about transparency and openness, being, you know, not isolated or insular, I guess I would look to maybe for some guidance from the village attorney. If we, you know, because of our separate roles, I did not take the oath of office though and lose my right to free speech.
Trustee
But-
Stokebrand, I'm sorry I need to, this is outside of the scope of a future item,
Okay.
and that's,
All right.
you know.
All right,
So
thank-
what I would say is I would invite any members of this board, anything related to the library, to feel free to email Manager Ewald and myself, and we can collect them and forward them. Or you can communicate directly to the board of the library board, any concerns that you have. But at this time, I'm not going to take any more comments unless they pertain to a specific future item of consideration. Trustee Kudo?
Is there a, as it relates to the library, is there any sort of by board structure?
do
that's-
not. No.
And it's not something we could do.
Um,
I thought we used to have a liaison.
there is nothing required. So this is, again, this is not a future item of consideration. So you know, in terms of brainstorming, I would ask you to put those things in writing, and I'm happy to consider them. Trustee Stokebrand?
So I move that we have a future motion, a future item for consideration about having a liaison, a non-voting liaison to the library board.
Second that.
All right, further discussion?
One quick question, is this motion to just put a liaison on, or is it to discuss the opportunity to add a liaison at a future meeting?
It would be the opportunity to discuss, because
Okay.
we're not taking action right now.
Okay. Yep.
And for that matter, I would take it under advisement as far as, because I'm not sure that we have to vote as a board. I mean, I could simply appoint a liaison, but we can certainly. Anyway, I would take the advice. I would take the direction of the board.
Okay.
So, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm gonna say nay. Not that I'm opposed to a liaison, but just process-wise. All right, I didn't see everybody else. So was it 6-1?
Can I?
Yeah.
Can I just ask you, what do you mean process wise? Is there something that we shouldn't, like, we're doing that we shouldn't be doing, or?
I apologize. I should have brought it up during discussion that but we were moving fast. So let's conclude the vote, and then I'm happy to restate.
Okay.
So was it 6-1? I didn't see everything. Yeah, okay. So motion carries 6-1. I again, I'm hearing the questions. That is a separate, it's sort of like talking about the school board. I don't think that it's within our purview to put items on the agenda to talk about other appointed or elected entities without me understanding what the nature of the concern is prior to that, and also what the requests are. So what I would prefer, but it doesn't matter because we've taken a vote. I would just like people to communicate. I would like the members of this board to communicate their concerns. And then we can work collectively on how to have relations, or exactly what it is that you'd like to accomplish when it comes to another entity that we have no authority over. Okay, so that's my opinion. We are concluded that item. And so I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right, motion by trustee Ursink, seconded by trustee Lynn. Any objections? We are adjourned at 8:41. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.